In this video, I'm going to go through the syllabus so you have a good idea of what's expected of you in this course. Okay, so lots of kind of required information at the top. There's my contact information. There's my phone number. If you call it and I'm not in the office, it will any voicemail that is left will be emailed to me, so I'll be able to get that outside of the work day. Okay, or days that I'm not in the office. I don't have official office hours, but I'm happy to meet with you whenever you would like. We can meet by Skype, we can meet by phone, other ways as well, in person if you feel it's necessary, we can do that. The best way to get a hold of me is email. Right there is my email address. Okay, these are the two major goals that you're going to hopefully achieve during this course. Okay, the textbook is called Promo 2. These are the authors Ogwin, Allen, and Simonik. This is the ISBN number. The publisher is Cengage. Now, this is the official listing in the TWU bookstore, but you do not need the bind-in access code. So if you can find a cheaper version of Promo 2 someplace else, maybe a used copy that doesn't have that code, you can probably get it for a whole lot cheaper. So I strongly recommend you do that. Because again, we're not going to be using the bind-in access code and the online resources with this course. You already have enough to do. Okay, a bunch of stuff we have to put in there. Okay, here's how you're going to be evaluated. A number of different things. There's a lot of writing in this class, so get ready. There are no exams, so hopefully that makes you a little bit happy. If you're sad and you want an exam, I can give you one just for fun. But I expect no one is going to take me up on that. So, all right, so there are 5 weeks in the course. Given that it's a summer course, in the first 4 weeks of those 5 weeks, there are discussion boards that are due. They're due kind of like in every other online class you've taken. There's a little bit of a structure change that I will get into as we get a little farther down into this presentation. There's a couple essays you're going to do. One is on ethics. You're going to take a stand on a particular issue and write a paper about it. It's a mass media essay, which is another paper where you're going to take a stand on a particular topic and write about it. And the rest of this is devoted to the group project, which I will talk about here in a little while. The group project consists of 4 different things. Group paper number 1, group paper number 2, the final paper, as well as a presentation. So group paper number 1 and number 2 are just subsections of the final paper that you have to turn in earlier than the end of the course. That forces you guys to start working on the project early and prevents procrastination. And there's another reason why we do this, which you will see later on when we talk more about it. Okay, the presentation is done in YouTube or uploaded to YouTube, so there's instructions about how to do that. It's really not that hard. Okay, grades will be allocated the following way. A bunch of stuff here about grade appeals. Basically, don't appeal your grade unless you have a really legitimate reason. Saying, well, I've never made anything but an A in my college career before is not legit. Or I really need a bump in this class so I can apply to grad school. That doesn't work either. Okay. Financial aid, anything else where you need a certain grade to maintain some sort of status, that is on you. That is not on me, and I'm not going to alter grades because of that. It's just not fair to other people who earned a better grade. So basically, the grade you get in this class is the grade you earned. Okay, if there's extra credit, it'll be because of my choosing, not because someone has asked for it, and it will be available to everyone. Okay, I do not provide extra work just because you're unhappy and want to bump up your grade. If you do the work that's regularly assigned when it's due, then there should be no need for you to do any additional work. Okay? All right. Okay, discussion boards. So let's go through a little bit about each of the assignments. So discussion boards, like I mentioned, the first 4 weeks there are discussion boards. They're worth 25 total points each week out of your total possible 500. So this is what we're going to do. I think this is a little bit different than discussion boards you've done in other classes. So I'm not posting specific questions for you to answer. basically what I'm doing is I'm making you go out and find an article somewhere, either Google search or Google Scholar or TW's library, online databases where you can basically go and find information. And I want you to find an article that's less than 2 months old that it relates to that particular week's chapter concept. So all you've got to do really is go into the chapter, look at the major concepts, pick one of those, do a search for a news article related to that particular concept. If you find something that looks good, there you go. If you don't find anything that looks good, go back to the textbook, find a different concept, then go back and do another news search, okay? So once you have found the article, what you do is in your discussion board post, you will do a couple things. First of all, you will list the name of the article, the publication, where it was published, a website, a journal, a newspaper, whatever, and also mention the date of the article. Then after that, you paste a link to the article and a very brief summary of what the article is about, okay? And then below that, in another paragraph, I want you to discuss within a minimum of 300 words how that particular article is related to this week's chapters. Okay, so if the chapter is on promotions measurement and you found an article about certain companies advertising ROI, then just talk about that. Kind of integrate those two things together. So this is the first step in each week's discussion board. You must do this by Wednesday before midnight. Okay, so there are 3 parts to each week's discussion board. By Wednesday, you do number 1. Then by Friday, you do number 2. And all you do in number 2, this is very simple, all you do in number 2 is you look through all of the articles or all the discussion board posts that were made by someone else and basically find something that is interesting to you and ask a question. So all you gotta do is reply to that particular post and ask a particular question. It's gotta be something maybe related to a course concept. So again, measurement, if the article posted was about advertising ROI, and you in the book found something about customer lifetime value, your question could be, well, this discussion of ROI is great, but how does that apply to customer lifetime value? What is sort of the linkages there? Okay, so all you gotta do is ask one basic question. There's no length requirement, but it's gotta be something substantive. It can't just be something very random like, where did you get this article or something like that. It's got to be something that is somehow related to the course. Okay, so that part is due by Friday midnight. And then finally by Sunday, you have to go back in and answer one question that was posed during the week. It can be a question asked about your initial post, or it could be a question posed about someone else's post. Okay, has to be 200 words, has to somehow relate to the materials in that particular chapter or chapters for the particular week. Okay, so again, 3 steps. Step 1, by Wednesday, find and post a news article and write about it. Then by Friday, you will ask a simple question about one of the individual's initial posts. What I didn't mention is you have to ask a unique question. You can't just ask what someone else has asked. Okay, and then finally by Sunday, you have to provide a 200-word answer to a question asked by someone in that week's discussion boards. Okay, important to note here, you don't have to wait until after Wednesday to pose a question. If you're an early bird or you, for whatever reason, your schedule requires you to maybe do things a little bit earlier, if someone's posted a news article on Monday, you can go ahead and ask the question. Just know that it's due by Friday night. Okay, and same goes for the answer that's due Sunday. If there's a question posted early and you want to go ahead and answer that one, absolutely go ahead. Most of us are procrastinators, including your professor, so I know this won't happen much, but know that it is possible. Okay, so you'll get 10 points for number 1, you'll get 5 points for number 2, and you'll get 10 points for number 3. If you have questions, let me know. It's a lot of instruction there, but hopefully it makes sense. All right, there are 2 papers that you'll be doing. These are individual papers, okay? And I mentioned briefly, one is about taking a position on an ethical issue, and one is about mass media. When we get to the appendix, you'll see the details of that, but just know that these are individual essays, and you don't do these in your group, you do these on your own. Okay. Then there's the group project. Group project, you're going to be developing a promotional campaign plan, see appendix for what that actually is, for a small business based in Dallas-Fort Worth. It can't be a large business, it can't be outside of Dallas-Fort Worth. Okay. So what you'll be doing is once you do that, once you find a business, you're going to create a plan. So in your career, you've talked about a business plan, you've talked about a marketing plan. Marketing plan is kind of embedded within a business plan. Promotional plan is embedded in a marketing plan. Okay, so you're just going to talk about what they need to do promotion-wise over a certain time frame. Okay. 2 intermediate papers, group paper 1 and group paper 2, a final paper and a presentation are due that are related to this project, as well as a peer evaluation. Okay. And something called an individual progress report, which I'll get to in a minute. Okay, so other information that is relevant to the all courses at TBU are required to put this stuff in there. Okay, so again, if you need to get in touch with me, just email me. I don't typically respond after hours, so after 5 p.m. I typically will respond the next business day. Over the weekends, I don't typically check email. If I do, I'm not going to respond to anything unless it is something that is absolutely urgent, like your grandmother died or some really major issue. Okay, just questions about where do I find this, how do I do that. Those need to be asked during the week and not over the weekend. Okay. All right. Incomplete policy required information for us to put there. There's some tips for success. Okay, so here is the schedule for the course. Okay, there's a lot in here, even though it doesn't look like there's a huge table here. So everything in this course is due on Friday midnight, except for parts 1 and parts 2 of each week's discussion boards. Okay, those are due. One part is due Wednesday, another part is due Friday. Okay, I'm sorry, another part is due Sunday. Okay, so 2 chapters each week for the first 4 weeks, and there's none in the final week. So the first week, chapters 1 and 6, you'll have to do a discussion board related to something from one of those chapters. We'll talk about group paper 1 here in just a few minutes. Progress report here in just a few minutes as well. Okay, week 2, there's discussion for chapters 4 and 5. There's no group assignment due the second week, but there is the individual ethics essay, which we'll talk about again in a minute. And so it kind of follows that pattern. The next week 3, we go back to the same kind of pattern as week 1, where you have discussion boards over chapters 9 and 11. You've got your second intermediate or group paper, and then you have a progress report, which I'll mention here again in just a few minutes. Week 4 goes back to no group activities, but you have the individual mass media essay that's due in addition to your discussion board. And then last week, there's nothing, there's no chapters, there's no discussion boards, there's no essays. It's just you finishing up your paper and your presentation, and also your peer evaluation by Friday. Okay, so that's all there is to that last week. Okay, all right. So individual essays. So the first one is due in week 2. This is the ethics essay. Okay, so you're gonna look at these 5 different ethical dilemmas or ethical issues in promotions, and you're going to write a paper about it. Okay, and the paper is related to these. Basically, that you just follow this framework. Okay, so you have an introduction section. What's the purpose? What's the issue? How would you define the issue and give an example? Secondly, you're going to take first one side where you say this issue or this particular practice is unethical. Here's my reasons why. Then the next section, you're going to say, no, it's not unethical. here are my reasons why. So basically, you're going to take both sides of the argument, argue for each, and then in the fourth section, you're going to actually take a side. So I'm going to say, in my personal view, I feel that this issue is unethical. Give me some reasons here, okay? Use more examples. You got to be persuasive here. And then finally, conclusion, you're just going to provide a brief paragraph where you reiterate the major points of the position that you've taken, okay? What you're doing is trying to convince me to take your side. All right, in the fourth week, you have the mass media essay. It's a little bit different, but somewhat a similar format, okay? So in this essay, what you're going to do is you're going to take a position on the issue or the statement, mass media advertising is dying a slow death, okay? So again, do an introduction, what is the purpose of the paper? What is mass media in terms of advertising? Give some examples of what mass media is, okay? Section 2, give some arguments why one would say that mass media is dying. Use some examples. Section 3, no, it's not dying. Provide some arguments for why you think it's not dying. Section 4, just like in the first paper, take a side. Do you agree with paragraph 2 or do you agree with paragraph 3? Okay. Use your point of view, give some examples, and then finally in the last section, make sure you provide a brief paragraph where you really drive home what it is that your position is. Okay. 3 pages, double space, 12-point Times New Roman font, must be clean, must have no spelling or grammatical problems. You've got to have separate sections for each paragraph or each issue. Okay, so it needs to be very easy to read. APA format is required. Make sure you check the syllabus for the due dates, and again, they're due the 2nd and the 4th weeks, of course. All right, group project. Talked about this a little bit already. Okay. Basically, you have $100,000 to develop promotional strategy for a company. Okay, so these are the sections. There's 8 different sections in this. Executive summary, you write last. Situation analysis, what is going on with this particular company right now in terms of promotions. That's kind of a fancy way in saying, how do they promote right now? Are they heavy in social media? Do they do TV advertising, print advertising, heavy digital, and so on and so on? Okay, give a brief background, do a SWOT analysis, then give me 3 objectives. Okay, what are the 3 objectives of your plan? What is the ideal outcome of this plan itself? Okay, is it to increase awareness? Is it to increase sales? So on and so on. You want to make sure that your goals are SMART goals. We've talked about this in other classes. Make sure you Google SMART goals if you don't know what they are, but specifically they need to be very specific and achievable and a number of other things. Okay. Creative strategy. Come up with an overall creative strategy for this business. This is basically the brand story. What are you trying to tell? Okay. We want to tell that this brand is old-fashioned, or this brand is progressive, or this brand is for the cool kids. Okay, kind of a you're telling a story here. So you want to include what their current position or story is, and then talk about what the story is you think it should be. So definitely you can't just say, well, they need to continue the brand story they've already started. You can say, well, it's good, but let's do some tweaking. Or you can say, well, we need to really redo this brand story. Promotional mix. What are the specific tools you're going to use in this plan? So you got to identify advertising, public relations, personal selling, social media, coupons, all kinds of specific activities that you can do that fall into this particular category. So talk about at least 4 things that you're going to put in this plan that they should do, and talk about why they should include those. Okay? And then IMC, we'll talk about integrated marketing communications in this course. How will all these tools kind of be integrated in that particular vein? Okay, how do you do that? Creative program, here you're going to actually come up with physical creative ideas for your promotion mix. Okay, so you have to include some artwork in here. So you need to get creative, draw some pretty pictures, make some social media posts, maybe do a little quick little YouTube video. You can do lots of things here. Okay, but I want to kind of get a look and I want to see a look and feel of what your brand story actually is. Okay, all right. Media strategy, where are you going to basically disseminate your messages? Okay, so if it's social media, talk about is it Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of those. You know, if it's radio, what stations are you going to put it on? If it's newspaper, what newspaper are you going to publish in? So give some objectives. Okay, you know, our media objectives are related to things like reach, impressions, exposure, and so on. Which media vehicles to use, we just mentioned that, and also media scheduling. How often are you going to have these messages put out there? You know, there's best practices for like how often you should tweet out something. There's also best practices for how often you should have a message on the radio. And then finally, budget. I'm giving you a fictitious $100,000. You need to develop a budget based on that. So how much money is going to each thing? So you'll need to do some research to determine what, you know, a radio ad costs and what it costs to do a social media campaign, maybe a coupon campaign, things like that. Okay. All right, so that's the entire plan. Group paper number 1 that's due the end of the first week needs to be just section 2. Okay. So the situation analysis. So very simple, 3 pages, just talking about what the company is, you know, who they are, what is their current, you know, situation, what sort of promotions do they do, and then also a SWOT analysis. Okay, it's not overly involved. It's due the first week of class. I will give you comments, then you can incorporate it in your final paper at the end. In the third week, you need to turn in sections 3 through 5. So you're going to actually start talking about, you know, more detailed information, you know, related to this course. Okay, that needs to be 4 pages. Okay, so that's due week 3. And then week 5, the final paper is due with all 8 sections submitted as one paper. I will give you feedback on group paper 1, group paper 2, that you can then, you know, improve upon, and then just basically paste that into your final. The final paper needs to be 15 double-spaced pages, 12-point times New Roman font, not including appendices or the cover page. Any outside sources you use outside the textbook need to be cited in APA format and needs to be super clean. Okay. There's also reference to individual progress reports. So something I'm requiring for group papers 1 and group paper 2 is for each student to individually submit to me a progress report on how the team is doing. So basically, it's kind of an intermediate peer evaluation. So how well are you guys working together? Are there some things or some group members that aren't pulling their weight? You know, what's really going on here? And the idea of this is to motivate people to not be slackers. But also, if someone is a slacker, you know, there's a chance that if they are bad enough, that I will kick them out of your group, make them work on their own. That way, you guys can continue working efficiently without someone that's kind of slowing you down. Okay, and that's very blunt to say, but that's the fact of the matter. Is sometimes students don't do the work, and everyone else sits around waiting for them to hopefully join, and then it just drags them down too. So I don't want that. Okay, so. Basically, everyone is going to evaluate their entire team, including yourself, and give them a score. There's 6 different columns here. So you'll put group member 1's name there, group member 2's name there, and so on, and basically give them a score between 1 and 10. Okay, with 1 being terrible and 10 being awesome. Okay, and then what you do is you take the sum of all 6 of those and you add it up and you put that number there. Okay, now what I will do is I will take every progress report, and I will come up with an average value rating for each group member. And if anyone in a group receives an average group rating of less than 30, they will be fired, basically, from their group. And what this means for them is then they get to do this project on their own for a maximum grade of 70%. So their grade will start at 70% of the max total points, and we'll work down from there if there are deductions for quality and content and whatever else. Okay, so that being said, this is a warning shot to make sure that you don't be that guy or girl that is going to slack and wait till the end, because in this class you cannot do that. Okay, so rate everyone, let me know, and I will be in charge of kicking people out if that is warranted. Okay, so you have to submit this both on the same day that group paper 1 is due and group paper 2 is due. Okay, there's a final peer evaluation that's due the day you turn in the final paper. That's set up a little bit differently. Okay, there is a presentation that you will need to do and submit in addition to your paper. Basically, you're going to record a video between 8 minutes long, and then once you've recorded this video, you upload it to YouTube, and then you submit the link in Canvas. I do not accept downloadable files. You cannot submit some sort of file to Canvas. Okay, you have to submit just the URL. And the reason I do this is knowing how to create and upload videos to YouTube is a huge part of what you might be doing in marketing. You know, YouTube is a huge part of many companies' marketing and more specifically promotional strategies now. And so you will need to have this skill. So I am making you do that. So you will then have that skill. And you can talk about that in job interviews. Okay. There is a video that I have linked here where I talk about how you actually do this. So basically, you do it in PowerPoint, and then you save it as a video file instead of as a PowerPoint file. And then you go to YouTube, set up your account, and then you upload it. Okay. And then peer evaluation, again, this is due the very last day, the same day your paper and presentation are due. I just want to get a final look at how everyone did in the group. And given that any slackers will be rooted out, these should be pretty good. So basically, in this situation, instead of rating on a scale of 1 to 10 for 6 different items that you then sum together, you're just going to give everyone a percentage score. So I think this person deserves 100% of the grade we get on each of the group related aspects. Okay, if someone didn't do well, you think they deserve 90%, give them 90%. Okay. I will average up everyone's evaluation across all their teammates. And again, if your evaluation is under 100%, then there will be a deduction that is taken from your final grade. Okay. All right. Know that this peer evaluation is required. You can't skip out on this. Okay. So you need to make sure you do it. You won't get a grade for the group project if you don't turn this in. Okay, so make sure that you do that. Okay, so that's all there is to say about this syllabus. Hopefully it makes sense. This is a pretty long video, but there was a lot of stuff to talk about. So if you have questions, let me know. Good luck. I know this looks like a daunting course, but it should be a lot of fun. Promotions is a great topic, and I enjoy teaching it, and you should enjoy learning it. Okay? Thanks, guys.